وَبُرْقُعٍ وَقُفَّازَيْنِ, and it is not permissible to wipe on the veil or gloves because there's no hardship in removing these things. Moving forward, so this chapter, it deals with wiping on the splint, on a cast, wiping on a bandage or something similar to that, like a gauze. Sometimes there is excessive gauze on a wound. So is it permissible to wipe? So the author, he writes, مَنْ يَجِبُ عَلَيْهِ الْمَسْحِ, that upon what is masa wajib. So إِذَا افْتَصَدَ أَوْ جُرِحَ أَوْ كُسِرَ عُضْوُهُ فَشَدَّهُ بِخِرْقَةٍ أَوْ جَبِيرَةٍ وكان لا يستطيع غسل العضو ولا مسحه وجب المسح على الصحيح على أكثر ما شد به العضو وكفى المسح على ما ظهر من الجسد بين إصابة المفتصد والمسح كالغسل فلا يتوقت بمدة ولا يشترط شد الجبيرة على طهر ويجوز مسح جبيرة إحدى الرجلين مع غسل الأخرى. So the author, he's writing that if blood is drawn from a limb, if blood is removed from a limb, or a person suffers an injury, right? Broken limb, broken arm, broken foot, right? And what does he do? Right? So, the whole idea of putting on splints and casts, this is from time immemorial. Right? So if that individual applies a splint, right, he applies a bandage or a cast because the injury is excessive. Right? It's an excessive injury. It's a very severe injury. And as a result of that injury, that person is unable to wash that which is fard to wash. Right? So there are, according to the Hanafi school, there are four a'la, there are four limbs that must be washed. So the face, the arms, elbows included, the feet, ankles included, and wiping over the head once, at least a quarter. So this is all wajib. This is all fard, according to the Hanafi madhab. So in this kind of situation, if a person, for example, has a bandage on it or has a cast on any of these limbs that must be washed, then rather than washing, this person is going to wipe. Right? Because if he were to wash it, it's possible that it might become infected. Sepsis might come in. There is a variety of things that can happen to the individual. So the Sharia has given this dispensation to the person who has been injured and he has a bandage on, he has a cast on, that instead of washing, you're going to wipe the majority of it. You're going to wipe the majority of the cast. You're going to wipe the majority of whatever you have on that needs to be washed. Right? And if by wiping over the majority, there's a possibility that water can seep through, then even in that kind of situation, you wipe over whatever you can. And even if that is difficult, then you can just omit it altogether. You can just leave it altogether. So this is the ruling for wiping over a splint, a bandage, a cast, etc. Moving forward, وكفى المسح على ما ظهر من الجسد بين إصابة المفتصد. So he's saying that it's sufficient. It is sufficient to wipe that part of the body that's visible between the bandages. Because sometimes that happens where you might have like a sling, right? You might have a sling, something that I have on, right? And some of the arm is visible. So it's sufficient to wipe the part of the body that is visible between the bandages. That also is okay. This is also fine. So you don't have to wipe the bandage itself, you can simply wipe whatever limb is visible, which is in the bandage, which is in the cast, and so on and so forth, like that. This is also sufficient. And again, one must exercise care in this kind of situation so that water doesn't go into the affected area. Otherwise, that could set into motion a whole variety of other problems. وَالْمَسْحِ كَالْغَسْفِ فَلَا يَتَوَقَّتْ بِمُدَّةٍ. Okay. So it's saying over here that, wiping over the bandage or a cast or a splint, it's just like washing. This is equivalent to washing. So it's no problem. It's equivalent to washing, and there's no time limit. So if a person indefinitely has a bandage on, has a splint on, has a cast on, right, then indefinitely he can continue to do masa. He can continue to wipe over these things. He can continue to take advantage and to avail this dispensation that the Sharia has afforded him. There's no time limit. When it comes to socks, there's a time limit, right? For example, when a person is muqim, when a person is stationary and he's living in his locality and he wears leather socks, then 24 hours. And if a person is traveling, then it's 3 days, right? It's 3 days. So in this kind of situation, it's permissible for him to indefinitely wipe over, the cast, the splint, whatever this person has on, so that his limb is not harmed. وَلَا يُشْتَرَطْ شَدُّ الْجَبِيرَ عَلَى طُهُرٍ. So he's saying that it's not a condition to tie the bandage in a state of purification. Like for example, when we put on our socks, our leather socks on, which we want to wipe on, then one of the conditions is for wiping to be permissible is that we wear the socks upon cleanliness. We have to wear the socks upon cleanliness. That's not the case with putting on a bandage or putting on a splint or putting on a cast. That's not the case. So you can, the condition is that you could be without purification and the bandage comes on, you can start wiping right there and then. So this is something that the Sharia has afforded us. ويجوز مسح جبيرة إحدى الرجلين ولا يشترط شد الجبيرة على طهر ويجوز مسح جبيرة إحدى الرجلين مع غسل الأخرى. So for example, if a person has a cast on one foot, right? So in that kind of situation, and there's no cast on the other foot, in that kind of situation, what does he do? Well, he just wipes on the cast that, the cast which is on the foot, wipe over that and wash the other. That's it. That's what the person needs to do. Right? But this is not permissible when it comes to, as we went over a few chapters, about more than 2 weeks ago, we went over that if a person doesn't have the front portion of his foot amputated or something, then in that kind of situation, it's not permissible for him to wipe over socks. He needs to have the front portion of the foot, right? At least the front portion of the foot for masa on the socks to be permissible. That is not the case with wiping over a bandage. So if a person has a bandage or a cast on one foot, then he does masa, he wipes over that, and he washes the other, because the other one is still fine. There's nothing wrong with the other, and it's fard to wash. So this covers this chapter. Inshallah, we will continue next week. Any questions?
If even though you didn't put a bandage and then you have the injuries, and you don't want to touch the water over there, so you can wipe around that area.
Yes, you can wipe around that area. Yes, that would be fine.